Whispers from Below, a horror podcast by Justin W. Geis. Scary stories, both real and fake. Hello, listeners. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 15 of Whispers from Below, a podcast by a madman for madmen. I'm your resident psychopath, Justin W. Geis, and today's topic of discussion is strange cemeteries. Now, before I get into the episode, I'm going to do my usual stuff. This episode should be pretty chill. I will say the last cemetery, I'm talking about 5 different cemeteries that are like kind of bizarre. The last cemetery is kind of a dark story. It's very sad. Like I really wasn't prepared for like how depressing that story was. It deals a lot with like trauma, and I mean we're talking about cemeteries, so death. If those are any like huge like triggers for you, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast, but if you just stumbled across this and like traumatic death is like a thing that you don't want to like hear about, then like maybe this isn't the episode for you. Maybe you should wait till I do a lighter episode about like Pokemon or something like that. Go back and listen to those. This might not be the best episode for you. Other than that, this is the season finale for season 3. So after I'm done with this episode and it's uploaded, I'm going to take a couple weeks off. It's also the day that I'm recording this. It's a couple days prior to my 1-year anniversary of uploading this podcast for the first time, all the way back to season 1, that first intro episode. So I just wanted to say like really quickly, like a big thank you to everybody that's been around since the beginning. And if you haven't been around since the beginning, go back and check out all those earlier ones. I am a little awkward in them, and I am a little uncomfortable because I wasn't used to this format yet. I wasn't used to talking to the mic and being comfortable, and I feel like I've sort of settled into something that I really enjoy doing and I'm much more comfortable with. So yeah, it's been a year and it's been a super cool year, and I can't wait to start season 4 in year 2. And I'll talk a little bit more at the end. I know I'm rambling. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. So we're going to talk about 5 different cemeteries. We're going to talk about 5 different cemeteries today. The first one we're going to talk about is I'm going to say this right now. I'm so sorry. I'm going to say 2 of these I know for a fact. I'm just going to be like mispronouncing the hell out of a lot of things. And I'm so sorry in advance to anybody that's from there or like that culture. And like, yeah, anyway, we're going to get into it. So this one I believe is said Chiesa de Morti, Church of the Dead. I'm just going to call it the Church of the Dead. This is a very small church that's in Urbania, Italy. So that's Italian. And I don't know Italian very well, so I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I'm so sorry. It's called the Church of the Dead, like roughly translated. This is an extremely old church that has 18 mummies displayed in the chapel. It has 6 females and 12 males. This area of the chapel is known as the Mummy Cemetery. Thus, being in the cemetery episode, I know you were confused. You were like, it's a church. Why is it in this episode? Explained. This building actually dates back to 1380. It's an extremely old building. And the bodies themselves date all the way back to like the 1600s and the 1800s. There are tours that you can take of this church, and they are run by the Brotherhood for Good Death, which was founded over 400 years ago in 1567. So this was basically just a group of people that like wanted to provide free burials and free records of those who had passed, because not everybody can afford a burial. Not everybody can afford, keeping records of those that they care about that have passed and things like that. And so they wanted to sort of make a way that it was more attainable to people. And I think that's a pretty cool mission, honestly, especially because Italy back in that time was like very much about like honoring the dead, as like many cultures were way back when. I feel like we're a little, I don't want to say lax about it nowadays, but like our idea of what honoring the dead is has definitely changed. Back then it was all about like burial rights. And so I feel like offering free burial rights is a really a really good thing to do for like the community as a whole. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Um, but this is where this gets a little bit interesting. So the people that give tours know everything about every single body that's in the church. So if you ask them, "Hey, how did that person die?" They can tell you all about it. They'll tell you the person's name, where they lived, how old they were when they died, the whole thing. It's crazy. And that's just been information that's like passed down through the records, like I just think that that's super cool. But I believe one of the bodies had Down syndrome and died of like, I want to say like a heart attack or like asthma. And then another body was murdered and ended up in there. Anyway, the coolest part about all this, I know, how could it get any cooler than mummies in a church? The coolest part about this is that these bodies were not like mummified in like a mummification process like you would see in like Egypt or anything like that. The body, they don't know like how they mummified, but like the hypothesis that everybody kind of like agrees upon is that they were mummified by a fungus that's called, I'm so sorry, Hypha bombicina. I don't know. But anyway, so this fungus sort of caused the bodies to not decompose. Instead, the bodies dehydrated very, very slowly, creating mummies naturally. So there was no mummification process, it just happened. This has happened elsewhere in the world as well, and it's crazy to think that like you could die and like instead of decomposing like you normally would, your body just decides that it's like got this fungus, so it's just gonna like dehydrate and you're just gonna like become a mummy. That's so weird to me. But anyway, so the mummies are displayed in glass cases and they are standing up around the room. This is a place you can still go visit. Also, for all of these cemeteries, I'm gonna say it at the end of talking about all of them, but like what I found was the most helpful when I was like doing research and like when I was like reading about it and like I'm doing it right now. Like I have a picture of the cemetery pulled up while I'm talking about it because I think that they all look so cool. Like there are some ones that I'm going to talk about and I'm going to be like, please go look up a picture of this because it's crazy. And I think that that kind of stands for all of them. So as I'm talking about them, if you're not like driving or doing something important, go like look at pictures of them because it's wild what these people be doing over here. So now we're going to move on to cemetery number 2, which y'all are going to gag. Cemetery number 2 is the New Lucky Restaurant. This is a like diner-ish sort of restaurant that is in Ahmedabad, India. I think that's how you say it. This was a restaurant. This guy had like bought a plot of land and then realized after buying it that it was like over a cemetery. And so he was sort of faced with the decision of like, okay, so do I pave over them? Do I move them? This seems disrespectful, like just for my restaurant. I don't think that that's worth it. So instead, he just decided to plan the restaurant around the coffins. So I think there's like 12 coffins in there. And instead of paving over it and building above it or anything like that, he just like put small little metal fences around them, left them out and about, and then just like built his restaurant around it. So as you're eating in the booths, you could be directly next to a coffin. And it's like a really popular place. Like people really love to go there. It's like a tourist destination. People really like it there. Apparently the food is really good. The menu is great. It's got a lot of stuff in it. People like go there. Like not even just tourists, like locals like go there. There are real bodies in between the tables. And the owner, his name is Krishnan Kuti. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm really bad with languages. It's like I consider myself I have a talent for learning. Let's put it that way. I'm very good at learning things, and languages elude me. I can learn like little basic things, but like I'm bad with like specific pronunciations and like people's names. Like I'm so sorry. Like I'm gonna butcher everything. And let's just like get that out of the way. So his name how I'm gonna pronounce it is Krishnan Kadi. Um, and he has this statement where he's like he claims that like eating in the presence of the dead is actually good luck for you. And so eating in the restaurant, it's not morbid or creepy. It's you're just getting good luck by eating there. Do I know if this is a true statement? If this is like a real philosophy? I have no idea. But I think it's like kind of a weird sentiment for somebody to have, but whatever. His business is thriving, so at least he has good luck. The other thing about this is that nobody knows who these bodies belong to. Like they're unidentified. Like, we don't know who they are, who the coffins belong to, why they're there. But the like general consensus, like the sort of like hypothesis that people believe is that they were Muslim followers of some sort of like 16th century like saint of some sort. But again, this is like a really popular place, and one thing that I was like, I really hope that they don't just like let the graves like sit there. It seems super disrespectful. They wash the graves down every single morning, and then they place fresh flowers near all the graves as like a sign of respect for like letting them be in the space with them. And I'm like, I love to say I'm not a superstitious person, but like when it comes to like death and stuff like that, I tend to be. Um, and I just feel like that's such a kind thing to do. Because although, like, I don't really care about, like, burying or, like, anything like that, like, I know a lot of people do. And so it's kind of a nice way for them to show, like, respect for the space that they're in, while also still, like, running their business. So it's nice that they wash them down every day, they put flowers there. I think that that's really sweet.
I don't know about you, but I personally hate having to go to the grocery store. It takes up so much of my day when I could be starting a new hobby with that time, like soap carving, or collecting the sick bags out of airplanes. With Instacart, it makes grocery shopping fast and easy, all while allowing me to stay in my underwear. Instacart allows you to order all of the things you usually get from your local stores, delivered to your door in as fast as 1 hour. Not only that, but it will also give you smart suggestions for new items based off of your preferences, as well as highlight deals to help you save some money. The shoppers handpick perfect produce and make sure that your eggs get to you safely. You can get free delivery on your first order over $35 by following the link in the show notes. This also lets Instacart know that we sent you, and it helps support Whispers from Below. So if you hate grocery shopping as much as I do, try Instacart today and enjoy getting your groceries the easy way.
We have now moved on to cemetery number 3, which is hanging coffins. Really, really weird concept, and it's hard to picture. But in China, Indonesia, and it's mostly common, like what we're going to talk about in the Philippines. But it's like a funerary practice in minorities in China. The Toraja people of Sulawesi in Indonesia do it, and the I'm so sorry, Kankanai people of Sagada in the Philippines also do it. Nobody really knows how far these like coffins date back. No one's really sure, but like they're most likely centuries old coffins. Um, Specifically in the Philippines is what we're going to talk about because that's most of the information that I could find about the hanging coffins was in the Philippines with the Kankanai people of Sagada. That was like mostly where I found info for it. So specifically there, some of their coffins would be carved either out of wood or it would be carved out of stone. And it was actually carved by the eventual resident of the coffin. So if you knew that you were about to kick the bucket, you started making your own coffin, which is like super macabre. Um, just can you imagine being like, I think I'm coming down with an illness. Better start building my coffin. That is so Gen Z. Like that is why they are really out here being like, what is life? Doesn't matter. Existence is futile. That's so crazy. To me, that just seems like so morbid. But like, I guess if you're around it every day, I guess it's not that strange if you're kind of like used to it at that point. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So usually, these, I guess, like mausoleums. I don't know what the proper term. I mean, I guess just like a cemetery. But they were usually placed on a cliffside under an overhang to protect it from the elements, or they were placed inside of a cave. And they would line like the whole walls with these coffins. Again, please look up a picture because the way I'm describing it is not doing it justice. It's bonkers. It looks so crazy. But like my brain immediately was like, wouldn't it be cool? Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. I'm going to sidetrack for a little bit. What if in my eventual future home that I own, my boyfriend and I, we love talking about like we want to have like a nerd room that's like a movie room, and we each get like 3 custom movie chairs that we make, and mine are all like Tim Burton and his are all like superhero. Anyway, we've talked about it a bunch. Um, but wouldn't it be cool if we managed to make a room that just like the guest bedroom, whatever, just looks like stone wall, sort of like a cavey vibe, and their bed is just like a hanging coffin on the wall made of stone. And so you get to like sleep in like the stone coffin. Like I think that's so cute. And it's like above. So then you can put a desk under it. You can put the dresser under it. So it's sort of like out of the way. And then you can sort of like move things around. And then everything can look like rocks. So it looks like it's sort of like naturally built into the. I also recently started working at an escape room. And I think that would also be a really cool escape room if you start in a coffin and then you sort of get out of the hanging coffin and then it leads you into like a cave and you have to escape the cave. That could also be really cool. Okay. I'm gonna write all these down, talk to my boss about it. I just thought, I don't know. My brain is like really going wild on like room design lately. I don't know. I've been watching like YouTube videos of people like organizing their bedrooms and stuff, and it's really taken a toll on me. Anyway, so all that to say, it looks really cool, and you should go look at a picture of it because it's cool. Please go look up a picture of it so you understand what I'm talking about. The other thing about this that's really interesting is that all of the coffins are super duper small. Like they're not actually like people-sized coffins that you would typically see with like white people coffins. White people coffins, you're laying on your back, so you're fully stretched out. But these people believed that you needed to leave the world as you enter it. And so all of the bodies were put into the coffins in the fetal position, which I just thought was like a really, I don't know, kind of a sort of bookend moment, I guess, for the body. You know, you're in fetal position, then you're birthed, and then when you die, they put you in fetal position and put you in the coffin. That kind of has like a weird, like poetic, sort of bookendy beauty to it that I can't express. But like when I read that, it like took my breath away. I was like, that's kind of beautiful. Like, I really like that. I kind of love that. But the other thing is that only leaders or prominent people in the community could be buried in the hanging coffins. So if you were just like, you know, poor Brittany down the street, you didn't get buried in these coffins. If you were a chief who like ran everything and was like also an amazing person and helped everybody and like won a war, then like you got to be in the pile. Not only did you get to be in the pile, but your height in the pile was based on like your merit and your social standing in the community. So like if you again, you're that chief, you did all the right things, tick all the boxes. You're at the top of the pile of coffins. And if you were kind of like you just barely made it, you go at the bottom. So you still make it on the wall, but then you go at the bottom. And then everybody else's coffins were just piled up on the floor. But again, if your coffin was on the floor, you still were put in based on merit. So you didn't even make it up on the wall, but you're the top of the people that didn't make it up on the wall. You know what I mean? But then if you were at the floor, like you must have been a garbage person or just like didn't contribute anything at all to society. Just like a weird sort of like cultural practice. But what's really cool is like you can go visit these caves and you can go visit these hanging coffins and see them for yourself in person. I mean, obviously you probably can't do it now. But like very interesting. Like I feel like it would be kind of fun to take a trip to the Philippines and like on one of my days, I just take a tour of this. Cause like as weird as it sounds, it's beautiful. Like, it's stunning. I think this is a hot take. I find graveyards and cemeteries beautiful. I think the, like, architectural style, like, okay, you know those, like, huge ones in Europe that are, like, entire, like they're basically, like, mini cities, but they have, like, the big mausoleums and, like, I just think it's all so, like, breathtaking, and that's what it's supposed to do. It has this sort of, like, creepy vibe, but it's also, like, kind of it's, like, creepy simply because it's all made of stone, so it feels very cold, but the architecture is the same of that of, like, a church most of the time, especially in Europe, so it's fascinating to just look at, like, the similarities and be like, "This is supposed to be, like, a comforting place, but it feels cold," and, like, especially during the day, you see all the different kinds of stone that they used and all the colors and the I think it's lovely. I think they're so beautiful, and these specifically, I think, are very beautiful. And there's something I don't know, there's something poetic about like dying in the fetal position and entering the world in the fetal position and leaving it that way. Um, yeah, I don't know. They were also like spoopy ghost people. So they also believed that like if they put you in the hanging coffins or the if they didn't put you over the underhang, you would just like roam around. But if you were in an overhang or you were in a cave, then you would be able to roam around in there protected from the elements and you could like watch over the community. Kind of cool. Moving on to number 4. This one I'm going to tell you the name and then you're going to pause this episode or you're going to keep listening and you're going to immediately look up a picture of this because I cannot do this justice. But this is the coolest shit I have ever heard of and I want to be a part of it forever. So this is called the Neptune Memorial Reef and it's also called I think the Atlantis Project. So this is wild. It is a columbarium off the coast of Key Biscayne in Florida. Um, columbarium is like it's like a place where you can put funerary urns. So like you can put like cremated remains in there. It's like a public place where you can like keep cremated remains pretty much. Nothing like super crazy. It sounds like a weird word, but this isn't technically this isn't a cemetery. It's like a cremation memorial coral reef. I have to explain it, but it's technically not a cemetery, but I'm including it in the list because it's a cemetery, but it's not a cemetery. You'll understand. So this is how it works. You get cremated, you die. You get cremated, your remains are then mixed in with cement, and then they take you down under the water and they create this like underground Atlantis city, basically. They basically create like a whole city with like us. There's like a square, there's like lion statues, and then wherever your body is placed, you know, quote unquote, with the cement, they put a plaque that honors you for giving up part of your body for this project. And it's supposed to be able to, if we can figure out how like to keep this as a stable option, what this then does is it allows us to stop placing bodies in the ground and then we can put more houses in, more apartment buildings, more stuff like that where graveyards would go and we can stop overcrowding them and we can move these bodies down under the water where there is a ton of space that we have not used. I think this is such a cool idea. It's so like, you know what it is? It's so Rapture. It's so BioShock to just like have a graveyard under the water. Like clearly, what we all need to do is just create a city under the water next to the graveyard. But the way that they designed it. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. But it's a man-made functioning coral reef art piece cemetery thing that spans they have 16 acres that they're allowed to use, but initially I think they only had half an acre. So right now it's really, really small, but they're expanding because this is recently new. This got finished in I think it opened in 2007. So it's still expanding like to this day. It's still getting bigger. So what's cool about this is that it's a no fishing zone, no lobster trapping zone, like no nothing. The animals there are totally safe. But boats and divers are 100% welcome to come and sort of like check it out. So you can take your boat out there and like check out the Neptune Memorial Reef. And they have live like coral. I don't know what you call it, but like they put coral in there that's like live so that it could expand and grow, so that not only is this something that's for human beings, but it now functions as a coral reef for fish. So they have more places to live off the coast. That's like a safe space for them to grow and flourish. And I really like that they weren't trying to take away from the ecosystem. They were like, let's add something to the ecosystem that then becomes sort of like a symbiotic relationship where like they get more coral reef and we get to keep more space here on land where we get to be, and we're going to take up a little bit of your space, but we're also going to make it worth your while, as if they're talking to like Poseidon or something. But the way that they designed it, it's super cool. It was conceived by Gary Levine, and then it was designed by Kim Brandel, and they designed it to look like a sunken city. So it's supposed to like be reminiscent of Atlantis, which is why it's called like Project Atlantis. It's so beautiful. Like I want to take a trip to Florida just so that I can go dive and see this up close. I I just should I do like a okay, wouldn't that be fun if I just took like a I'm so gross and dark. I just do like a vlog of me going to a bunch of like cool cemeteries around the world that I just like think are cool. That's like there's that TV show called like Dark Tourist or something like that. And it's just like where are the creepiest places that people go to visit in the world? That would be like a dark tourism trip. Would be like me just like visiting cemeteries, but I really want to go to this one. I think it's so pretty. And then you get to see fish, and I've always wanted to go diving, and I think this would be a worthwhile trip. I think it'd be really fun. Anyway, this is really cool. Please go look up a picture of it. It's super cool. The other thing about this, for those of you that are concerned, if you look up the permits that they had to get to do this, they really had to jump through a lot of hoops. They had to make sure it was like hurricane safe. It got pushed back because of a hurricane. They got certified by all of these things. But one of the places that gave them a permit was the Florida Fish and Wildlife, which is sort of like the eco-friendly, a group that's like, this is safe for the animals that are going to be in the water. And I do think that that's important to sort of keep in mind is like, they weren't just doing this to do it. Like they really put a lot of thought and effort into it. And it's not one of those like weird, like, it's not like a product that you see on TV and you're like, why the hell would somebody make that? Like this makes sense to me. And it seems like it's a really great thing and it's super cool and innovative. But I wanted to throw that out there because I know people would be like, how do we know it's like not hurting the fish? Why would they tell us? It's got permits from a bunch of different places. I didn't write them all down because there was literally like 10. But it's super cool. Please go look at it. It's the Neptune Memorial Reef. It's awesome. And now we're on to our fifth and final cemetery. So this is a really depressing story. Backstory. Since I started the podcast, I have wanted to do an episode including this graveyard. There is not a lot of information on it. And when you find the information on it, I found out today when I was doing research, it's super depressing. I didn't think it was super depressing until I read about it. And I was like, wow, this is one of the saddest things, one of the saddest tragedies I've like ever heard of in my whole life. I thought this was just going to be like spooky, fun, whatever. But it's not. Like this one's really sad. So I'm just letting you know right now, you can skip this one if you don't want to hear anything like super depressing. But I'm going to talk about it anyway. And I really wanted to talk about it for a while. So here we go. This fifth cemetery is called Showman's Rest, or alternatively, the Clown Graveyard. So that's why I thought it was going to be fun, because clowns, you know? Actually, when I did if you go back, I believe that was in season 2, I did a whole episode on like clown true crime stuff, and then I did an episode on Gacy immediately after, and I was like, hashtag no clowns 2020, like I can't do it. And if you want to go back and listen to those episodes, you definitely should. But the reason that I did those was because I wanted to talk about the graveyard, and then I forgot to include it in like the true crime episode. I like just I made that whole episode for the purpose of doing talking about this graveyard, and then I didn't. So then I kept thinking like, how am I going to incorporate it? Because it doesn't have enough info for a full episode. Like, what am I going to do? So I found out we're going to talk about other graveyards, and there were a ton more. Like, I picked 5, but there was like a bunch that were bizarre. There's one that like I there was one that like basically like drew like little pictures of how they died and like made fun of people, like roasted you on your gravestone. It was so cute, and they're all like brightly colored and like humorous and whatever. If you want me to do like if you guys like this episode, please like let me know. And then if you guys want to see like a part 2 of this episode, also let me know because there were a ton more. So I could definitely do like a strange cemetery part 2 sort of scenario. Anyway, moving on. So Showman's Rest is in Forest Park, Illinois, and it is a mass grave for performers in the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus. So on June 22nd, 1918, there was a terrible tragedy that happened. Their train was stalled because I believe like something overheated and they had to take a second to sort of like let it cool down. Um, and they had all the right things up. They had the hazard signs, they had the warnings up, they did everything that they could. But unfortunately, there was another train that was going 35 miles per hour coming directly at that train. The train that was coming at them was completely empty. In the train that's about to get hit, in case you couldn't tell what's about to happen, most of the performers were sleeping. And then there was another train that was ahead of them that had a couple performers, like I would say like 20% of them, as well as all of the animals. So if you don't like animals dying, all the animals were safe. They all survived. But unfortunately, this man was driving his empty train towards the train full of sleeping performers, and he fell asleep at the wheel. So he didn't notice the hazard signs because he was asleep, and he crashed into the wooden train cars of the circus. Fortunately, that seems like the wrong thing to say, but fortunately, those that were hit, most of the people that died initially. On the initial hit, they died like instantly within a couple seconds. So they had a pretty painless death, which I think, like, as morbid as that sounds, I do think that that's better than what happened next. So back in the day, what did they use to fill their lanterns up? They used kerosene, like really old-timey kerosene lanterns. And with a collision like that, the kerosene lanterns lit on fire and they lit the train cars on fire. So the people that survived had to crawl out of a burning inferno wreckage. And if their loved ones didn't make it out, they just lost them and had to watch as a fire burned their entire friends and family and life alive. Because for those of you that don't know, back in the day when you joined the circus, you were like running away from everything. Like if you joined the circus, that was your family. That's who you were with all the time, all day, every day. There was like reports of this one clown who lost his wife and children in the fire and was just sobbing. Everybody lost a friend, everybody lost a loved one. But the other thing that makes this so tragic is when you join the circus, most of the time you don't know anybody's backstory. You don't know their real name. You don't know anything. And the bodies were so mangled and torn up from the train that they couldn't identify them. So there were 86 people that died, and there were 127 people injured. And the 86 people, there were only 3 people that were identified, quote unquote, and it was with stage names. So there was Smiley, Baldy, and then I think the last guy was like Four Horsemen or something like that. That was it. Everybody else was just unidentified male number 1, unidentified male number 2. I believe there were like 47 unidentified females, and then the rest were men. And like trapeze artists, clowns, strongmen, just so unfortunate. Just so tragic. especially because like no one knows who these people are. Lucky for them, though, the Showman's League of America had just purchased land in a cemetery in right by where their train had crashed in Forest Park, Illinois, and so they were like, "We're gonna pop all these bodies in there." So the Showman's Rest like gravestone is an elephant, and the trunk is lowered in mourning. That's sort of like a sign that it's in mourning. Um, and I believe underneath it, it just says Showman's League of America underneath it. But this is, I was told that this was a clown mass grave. And so I thought that that was going to be like kind of like a spooky story to tell of like, oh, it's haunted. And like, from what I understand, it's not haunted. It's just like a really like sad story with a sad ending. And then a mass grave full of unidentified performers of various kinds. But yes, some of them were clowns. I was so depressed after reading that. I was like, oh, I almost forgot. I just looked down at my notes. That's not it. This is where it gets worse. The other train car didn't know that anybody had died or that anything was wrong till they got to their performance location. And then they were like, where's the other train? And they got news of what had happened. And then to find out who died, they did a roll call. And if you weren't there and didn't respond, you were dead. Holy fucking shit. That is so sad. Like, my heart hurts. That was like all I could think of is like, we're on tour and we end up in two separate buses, and you're traveling. Let's say that one of the buses got in a huge accident and half of our cast died. And then we get to the hotel and we're like, what do you mean? Where is everybody? And they're like, they were in a terrible accident. Like, now we have phones, we would know sooner. But like, let's say this happened. And then all of a sudden, like, we don't know who died. And so we just, like, get to the show the next day. And our stage manager is like, cool. So, Dan Hoy here. Justin Geis. Okay. Just, like, going through the list, like, ah. And there were children. There were children that died. So fucked up. Sorry to end on such a sad note, but I don't know. I kind of want to visit all of these though, still. There's a part of me that just like I think graveyards are so beautiful. I just want to visit them all the time. One of my favorite games of all time that I never beat, so like don't come for me. One of my favorite games aesthetically of all time is Bloodborne. It's like a Souls-like game where like people get like this blood disease or whatever, and then they're like crazy like zombie monsters that like kill people. It's wild. It's super hard, but it's all set in like a Victorian era, like steampunky sort of vibe. And my favorite weapon in the game, you can get a cane that's also a whip, and it is just so lit. I want that in my life. Anyway, there's a section in like the first. There aren't really like levels, but there's like sort of like the first area that you're in. You run. I guess I'm not spoiling too much. If you want to know more about what I'm talking about, sort of look up that first section, like watch a speed run, and you'll see that the section I'm talking about. But you get through these big gates. You fight a bunch of people, then you get through these big gates, and there's like a big dude banging on the door, and you kill him, and then you turn around, and there are some birds, and you kill the crows on the ground. And then when you go up the stairs, there are these huge like mausoleums. And I just thought that that section looked so stunning. And there's like this beautiful sort of like dark gray aesthetic. And it like I stopped what I was doing and died. Because it's a Souls-like game. So if you stop, you basically die. And I just like was so taken aback by like how the scenery looked in the game that I like wasn't focusing on the game itself. I just think they're so beautiful. Maybe that's just me being weird and like punk and goth and like, "Meh," but I just think they're so pretty. I don't know. It can't be helped. All that to say, I don't mean any disrespect to any cultures or anybody who knows anybody that's in these or thinks that this is sort of disrespectful. I'm not at all trying to disrespect. This is a topic that interests me, and I find it very interesting to learn about burial rites and how things like that work, especially in different cultures. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, especially if I pronounce something wrong. I promise this is all like well intentioned. I'm not trying to be a dick. Cool. Anyway, that's all I have for this episode today. Kind of like a chill season ender, you know? I was actually gonna end with another movie episode. If you guys want to see some of those, I've watched Tusk, I've watched Child's Play, and I've watched Leprechaun, Jennifer Aniston's first film. And if you want to check those out, you can go watch them. But or I guess listen to them. I really like watching movies and commenting on them. And then I take all my notes down that I would normally say during the movie. And then I give you like a play by play of the movie. And I was going to do that for this episode. And then I was like, oh, I started this season with that. I don't want to like bookend it with movies. That's not really my thing. So I decided to do this because I've been wanting to do this topic for a while. And I just didn't know when the right time was. And so, season 3 Ender is a topic that I'm super interested in, and I hope you like it as well. Um, if you like the show and you want to support it at all, if you go over to YouTube, I post this there all the time on YouTube. I don't know if anybody knows that, but I post it on YouTube. You can go like that video because the more likes I get, the more I know that you like genuinely like it, which is kind of cool. Uh, Please tell people about it if you're enjoying this show. I hit my 1 year mark, and the show has grown in a year more than I expected it to grow. And I'm so honored that people want to listen to me talk about scary stuff and just like shoot the shit with you via the microphone. I love it and I love doing this. And I'm going to take some time off and I have some big plans, but I'm going to sort of talk about some of the ideas I have for the coming season and let me know whether you want to I'll talk about how you can let me know and then I'll talk about the stuff. So first of all, you can reach me with episode ideas, comments, questions, concerns, anything, reviews, anything like that. Please feel free to go let me know via the website, whispersfrombelow.com. There's a contact page. You can also download episodes there. I have merch. All the merch is really cute and really high quality, so go check it out. It's pretty awesome. And then also there's a little bit of like an about page, but the main thing is that there's a contact page. So if you guys want to, find any of my socials or anything like that, they're also linked on the website. Go check it out. The website's like really cool. My boyfriend helped me design it. It's awesome. Go check it out. But you can send me a message through there, or you can just message me via Instagram DMs. I get a lot of messages through there about like, do this in a future episode, or like, hey, I just love the show. Want to let you know, like, I really appreciate it. Even just messages like that are sweet. The Instagram is Whispers from Below. No spaces, no underscores, no capitals, no nothing. Pretty easy to remember as long as you remember the show. This podcast gets uploaded every Monday at 8 a.m. So if you want to check it out every Monday, 8 a.m., it's going to be there. It's not going to be there for a couple more weeks because I'm going to take some time off and sort of plan some stuff out for season 4. But while the seasons are active, every Monday, unless I otherwise state. The best place to check out if an episode has been uploaded or if anything's going to be uploaded is the Instagram. I try to upload on the day of the upload and let you know that it's there or that it's not there, depending on what's going on in my life. Because sometimes my life gets crazy and I love doing this podcast a lot, but sometimes I don't have the time to do it because, shit hit the fan and I've got some stuff I need to do. That being said, I'm going to try to make this a much bigger priority. And I really want this to grow. So let me know through those two things if you like what I'm about to talk about. So something that somebody has talked to me about, I really love makeup for those of you that don't know. You can follow my like personal Instagram. It's linked on the Whispers from Below account to see like makeup that I like to do. I like to do like dark, smoky sort of makeup. And somebody was telling me about this girl that like tells scary stories and like puts on makeup. And I was like, that would be so much fun. So if you guys would love to see like videos from me, these are the two ideas I have so far for videos. And the way that I'm planning on doing it in my head, let me know if you think this is a good idea, because I'd love the back and forth of what you think. So every single Monday, I would upload a normal podcast episode. And then let's say like Thursday or Friday of that week, every other week. So podcast every week, and then every other week I would upload either some makeup video where I'm talking about scary shit and I'm putting on some makeup, so that you can kind of like get to know me a little bit better as a person, and you also get a visual experience while you're learning about something. Or that week you would get what I thought would be a really fun idea is one of my favorite games, probably of all time, but I'm really currently obsessed with it. Re-obsessed with it again is Dead by Daylight, which I think I talked about it in my scary video games episode, which you can go, I've plugged a lot of episodes in this, but you can go and check that out. I have a lot of episodes, so go check them all out if you like this. But basically, there's one person that's a killer, and they're trying to kill four survivors, and the survivors are trying to finish generators to unlock the doors to escape whatever map they happen to be in. But all of the killers are really cool and well thought out, and some of them are from franchises. Like there's Michael Myers, there's Freddy Krueger, um, there is Amanda from Saw. There's stuff like that. But then there's also original characters that the creators of Dead by Daylight have created, like the twins, the Plague, Blight. These are all characters that they've created, and they're very interesting. And I thought it would be fun to do some gameplay of me playing Dead by Daylight. I play Survivor, but I mostly play Killer. And I thought it would be cool if I just kind of like played Dead by Daylight, and as I'm going through playing a certain killer for like a round or two, I'm talking to you about the history of that killer, um, sort of their plot within the Dead by Daylight world, as well as sort of what the creators used to draw inspiration for said character, and then what their like unique perks are in the game, and sort of how that plays into how the game plays. I just thought that that could be a fun little series because I love playing that game anyway. And I'd love to learn more about like the DVD universe and stuff like that. So I think that that would be fun. If you want to see an episode like that, please let me know. I know that this is a lot for a season ender. I'm like giving you a lot of stuff to like let me know about, quote unquote. But truly, honestly, like friends that listen to this, I know I have a couple of you, text me. Be like, that's a shitty idea. Don't do that. Or like, hey, maybe you want to upload it more frequently than that. Or maybe you want to do it like once a month. Or also, maybe I upload it to the Patreon and I add it to a tier there where like if you are subscribed for a certain amount, you get a bonus episode. There's bonus episodes on the Patreon, patreon.com/wizards from below. Go check it out. It's pretty cool. There's lots of cool stuff there. Rewards for patrons. Um, but also like maybe I add a video as the bonus episode that month. So that's what you get. But I think I want to make it a little bit more accessible to people. But let me know if either of those ideas sound cool to you, if you have other ideas for videos that you would want to see, or I don't know if I would want to do this necessarily, but if you would like this podcast to be both in podcast form that you normally download, as well as like a video moment of me kind of like talking. I'm very expressive. I talk with my hands and I'm reading from my notes and I move around a lot when I'm recording this. So if that's something you want to see, more of a like me sitting recording and you can see me so that when I'm uploading to YouTube, it's not just like my logo. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in too. All this to say, I'm super excited for year 2 of doing this podcast. Um, it's crazy to think that I've been doing this for an entire year. Uh, I I just have to say, I don't think I've like ever been prouder of a project that I've worked on. I love this podcast and I love doing this podcast and I love planning this podcast. The one thing is like sometimes I'll be busy in the week and all of a sudden it's Sunday and I'm like, oh no, I have to record this for Monday. But even when I'm like forcing myself to get the research done because I have a time crunch, I'm still enjoying it. And I love learning about topics and especially you guys interacting with me and telling me, like, hey, so you should do an episode on this because it's normally stuff I've never thought of or I don't know anything about. And so then I'm like, oh, cool. I get to I get to truly research something that I have no basis on and I get to learn a lot. So, anyway, I love you guys a lot. Thanks for listening all the time. I believe I'll be back in 2 to 3 weeks. I'll let y'all know sort of the timeline for season 4, but I do need to get a couple things together because I want to start doing videos. And to do that, I need to get a couple more things together before I can start season 4 up. But yeah, so remember, I really want a hanging coffin, either an escape room or like an actual bedroom. I think that would be super sick. Number two, I apparently can't pronounce anything in a separate language right ever. I'm just like not capable of it. And number three, please wear a mask. I know I say it every week. Please wear a mask. Continue to be safe. Socially distance. I know you want to see your friends. I know, but you got to be safe first and foremost. We got to get back to normal, y'all.